Number 10. Grandmother in action. In January 2022, a grandmother from Seaford, Long Island, took matters into her own hands and outwit an unsuspecting fraudster. 73-year-old Jean got a suspicious phone call one Thursday afternoon from someone who claimed to be her grandson. The suspect called her grandma, but she didn't have a grandson who drives. Jean had previously worked as a 911 dispatcher, and she knew that he was a scammer right away and would not be able to deceive her. The person on the other end of the line spun a tale of being arrested for drunk driving and being jailed by the police. Even though she was aware of the ruse, she decided to play along and talk to the con man. Over many phone calls, someone who claimed to be her grandson's lawyer told her that she needed to pay $8,000 for his bail. In the meantime, Jean contacted the local police. The officers told her to continue the charade so that they could gather evidence. A little while after that, a fake bail bondsman informed her that he was around the area she lives in and could swing by her house to collect the cash. Taking the opportunity, Jean made a clever plan. She told the scammer that she had the money at home. As the imposter came to her house to collect, Jean gave him an envelope filled with paper towels instead of actual cash. Oblivious to the deception, the scammer walked away without suspicion. But at that precise moment, police officers waiting nearby sprang into action, capturing the scammer in the act. The man was later identified as 28-year-old Joshua Estrella Gomez. Authorities charged Gomez with third-degree attempted grand larceny, given the gravity of the scam. Number 9. 100 Staged Scenarios. On June 8, 1989, a body was found in the yard of an abandoned house. Cindy James, a 44-year-old nurse, had been drugged, strangled, and her hands and feet were bound behind her back. At first, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police believed that Cindy's death was an accidental incident. But the circumstances around Cindy's death were not ordinary. In the 7 years leading up to her death, Cindy had reported nearly 100 incidents of harassment, 5 of them involving violent physical attacks. Over time, the authorities began to doubt the truthfulness of her claims. It all began 4 months after Cindy's separation from her husband, when she started getting some mysterious phone calls. She told her mother, Tilly Hack, about them, telling her that she didn't know the voice on the other end. What's more, the voice would change every time. Cindy reported the phone calls to the Vancouver police, which started an investigation. Over the next 3 months, the level of harassment got worse. She experienced nighttime prowlers, and sometimes her porch lights would be smashed. Her phone lines were also cut, and strange notes appeared on her doorstep. She was scared and thought that someone wanted to kill her. One evening, her friend Agnes paid her a visit and found an absurd situation. As she knocked on the door, there was no answer. She assumed that Cindy was having her bath as she did every night. But then she heard something and found Cindy crouched outside with a nylon string wrapped around her neck. Cindy claimed that when she had gone to the garage to retrieve a box, an assailant grabbed her from behind. All she could recall were the white sneakers worn by the attacker. In an attempt to regain control of her life, Cindy moved to a new house, changed her car's appearance, and even changed her last name. She also took help from a private investigator named Ozzy Caban. At the same time, the police continued their investigation and questioned Cindy. But Cindy was evasive and withheld crucial information, making it challenging for law enforcement to believe her. One night, Caban overheard strange sounds coming through a two-way radio he had given to Cindy. Concerned, he immediately rushed to her house, only to find it locked. He looked into the house through a window and found Cindy lying there. At first, he thought she was dead, but as he kicked the door open, he found a note pinned with a paring knife. He called the police, but within about 2 minutes, she woke up and he took her to the hospital. She told Ozzy that she noticed a man coming through the gate. The next thing she remembered was being hit on the side of the head with a piece of wood, after which she was held down on the floor. She also remembered a needle going into her arm. But there were doubts about the incidents and Cindy's stories of harassment. There was a severe lack of evidence since there were no fingerprints from a suspect. Cindy was the only one who saw the suspect, and sometimes she said there were 2 or 3 people. The police spent more than $1.5 million investigating Cindy James's complaints, but no suspect was ever found. Then Cindy disappeared on May 25, 1989, 6 years and 7 months after the first threatening phone call. On the same day, her car was found in a nearby parking lot with groceries and a wrapped gift. Blood was discovered on the driver's side door, and items from Cindy's wallet were scattered beneath the vehicle. 2 weeks later, her body was discovered at the abandoned house. The scene was gruesome, with Cindy's hands and feet bound behind her back, and a black nylon stocking tightly fastened around her neck. However, the autopsy revealed that Cindy died from an overdose of morphine and other drugs, leading the police to conclude that she had taken her own life. Do you think Cindy was telling the truth? Let us know in the comments and hit subscribe while you're at it. Number 8. The Chase on a Frozen Lake. One afternoon in February 2022, police apprehended an Idaho man following a thrilling foot chase across a frozen lake. 27-year-old Devin D. Denny was arrested after the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office received a report of a suspicious figure attempting to enter a house in the Spirit Lake area. Deputies and officers from the Spirit Lake Police Department were dispatched to the incident near Nautical Loop and Highway 41. Despite a thorough search of the neighborhood, police were unable to locate the male suspect. They did, however, discover a vehicle that was eventually linked to the suspect. Authorities attempted to arrest the man, but he jumped out of the car and began sprinting across the frozen surface of Spirit Lake. Deputies pursued Denny onto the freezing lake, determined to catch him. During the pursuit, the 911 center got a separate emergency call reporting a structure fire nearby. It was characterized as a detached business that was completely enveloped in flames by the time firefighters arrived. On the other hand, Denny was undeterred by the gathering pandemonium and continued his daring escape to the other side of the lake. While officers were building a perimeter, a concerned resident contacted them and informed them that Denny was retracing his steps and crossing back across the lake. That's when officers intervened and successfully apprehended Denny without incident. Denny was arrested and placed in the public safety building. He was charged with felony burglary, petty theft, obstructing justice, and possessing drug paraphernalia. While it was unclear whether Denny was involved in the structure fire, authorities indicated that he could face more charges after the investigation is completed. Denny had a history of run-ins with the law, having been arrested or charged a total of 11 times since 2009 for various offenses related to alcohol and driving. As of now, it's unknown where Denny is. Number 7. Need for Revenge. In 2008, Christopher Dorner, an officer with the LAPD, was dismissed after being reported he used excessive and unnecessary force during an arrest. Dorner wasn't happy with the outcome, so he appealed his termination. But this was denied by the appeals court, which decided that the LAPD Board of Rights had enough evidence to support its decision that Dorner lacked credibility in his allegations against the officer. Years went by and Dorner never got over being fired, and in 2013, he began his killing spree. On February 1st, he murdered a couple inside their vehicle. One of the victims was the daughter of LAPD Captain Randall Kwan, who had previously acted as Dorner's defense counsel during the hearings related to his allegations. In a chilling manifesto shared on Facebook, Dorner admitted that he targeted Kwan's daughter and her fiancé because he believed that Kwan had not defended him well. After reviewing the manifesto, the LAPD reopened the case surrounding Dorner's dismissal, and Chief Charlie Beck assured Dorner that they were thoroughly reviewing his claims. In the meantime, the police started a large-scale manhunt for Dorner, announcing him as a domestic terrorist and offering a reward for his capture. As the manhunt went on, Dorner didn't stop with his violent rampage. He ambushed Officer Michael Crane and his partner while they were on patrol, killing Crane and injuring his partner in the process. The city was full of fear and tension as law enforcement agencies worked to capture Dorner and put an end to his reign of terror. Finally, on February 12, 2013, after a tense standoff, a fierce gunfight erupted between Dorner and the authorities. During the exchange of gunfire, Deputy Jeremiah McKay tragically lost his life. In an attempt to force Dorner out of the cabin where he had taken refuge, tear gas was deployed. Amidst the chaos, a single gunshot was heard from inside the cabin. Dorner's lifeless body was recovered, and it was confirmed that he died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. Number 6. Both parties arrested. In July 2016, a man decided to meet a prostitute through an online social site, meetme.com, but it led to both parties arrested. 30-year-old Stanley C. Siller and 18-year-old Crystal L. Heller decided to meet in Amory. Based on police reports, Siller confessed to the authorities that he had previously arranged to meet with Heller, who also went by the name Olivia, on 2 separate occasions. On both occasions, they agreed that Heller would provide sexual services in exchange for money. Siller claimed that he had paid her upfront on both occasions, but Heller always vanished with the money, leaving him in the vehicle without returning to finish their funny business. In an attempt to confront Heller and prevent her from ripping him off again, Siller devised a plan. He arranged another meeting with her but took precautions to conceal his identity by hiding his phone number and vehicle. He also admitted to breaking the passenger door handle to prevent Heller from leaving the truck with his money again. The pair agreed to meet in Amory on July 21st, but Heller informed authorities that when she gave Siller directions to her home, he abruptly told her that they were not headed there and refused to let her leave the car. Shortly after midnight, Heller made a call to 911, reporting that she was being held against her will. This made Siller release her along County Road F before fleeing toward Clear Lake. Law enforcement was alerted to the situation and eventually located Siller after his pickup truck was discovered crashed near the intersection of 70th Street and 20th Avenue. During the arrest, it was revealed that he was carrying a firearm, which was confiscated at the scene. According to police reports, Heller confessed to engaging in prostitution, leading to her arrest. On the other hand, Siller was arrested for false imprisonment and pandering, reflecting the allegations of his actions during the incident. Ultimately, both of them ended up in Polk County Jail. Number 5. A criminology expert. In the early hours of November 13, 2022, a criminology student killed 4 students from the University of Idaho after stalking them for some time. 28-year-old Brian Koberger's cell phone data analysis showed that he was in the same area as the 3 sorority sisters and one of their boyfriends, whom he attacked and fatally slashed while they slept in an off-campus house. A source involved in observing the suspect closely before his arrest revealed that Koberger was sure not to leave fingerprints in public, even as he fled to Pennsylvania after the murders. He was followed to a giant supermarket chain in Pennsylvania while wearing gloves. What's more, the source mentioned that Koberger's cell phone activity showed a pattern of tracking his victims' movements for several weeks, further suggesting a disturbing pattern of stalking. The victims were 21-year-old Kaylee Goncalves, 21-year-old Madison Mogan, 20-year-old Zaina Knodel and her boyfriend, 20-year-old Ethan Chapin. They were murdered in their house following a night out in Moscow, Idaho. Prior to his arrest, Koberger continued to work as a teacher's assistant at the university, maintaining a sense of normalcy. But then he embarked on a cross-country journey in his white Hyundai Elantra just days before Christmas, with the authorities closely tracking his movements. Koberger's father, who is not considered a suspect, traveled to Idaho to accompany his son on the 2,500-mile drive back home after the killer completed his first semester in the university's PhD program. While the investigators have not yet recovered the murder weapon, a fixed-blade knife, they have relied on DNA evidence and Koberger's presence near the crime scene as his car was spotted in the area to establish a connection to the crimes. This forensic evidence reportedly matched the suspect's DNA profile after being compared to a public database, leading the FBI to track him for 4 days before collaborating with local law enforcement to gather enough evidence for a warrant. Despite Koberger's efforts to maintain a low profile, wearing gloves and adhering to his regular routine, Experts think that his arrogance left a DNA trail that ultimately led to his identification as the prime suspect. A retired NYPD detective sergeant pointed out that someone studying criminal justice and criminology like Koberger should understand Lockhardt's exchange principle, which talks about the transfer of evidence between individuals and the crime scene. The suspect's educational pursuits have led people to think about his motive, with some suggesting that he may have been studying to become an expert criminal or perhaps even a serial killer. His defense attorney informed CNN that the suspect is eager to prove his innocence and intends to waive his right to a hearing, expediting his return to Moscow, Idaho, to face the 4 murder charges. Brian Koberger is currently being held without bail at the Monroe County Correctional Facility in Pennsylvania. Number 4. The Big AI Scam. In April 2023, an AI-powered technology was used by a Chinese fraudster to deceive a businessman in India and swindle thousands of dollars from him. The victim, identified as Gua, got a video call from someone who looked and sounded exactly like his close friend. But the caller was actually a con artist, using special AI technology to change their facial appearance and voice. The unidentified scammer impersonated Gua's trusted friend and managed to convince him to transfer a large sum of 4.3 million yen, equivalent to $609,000, by claiming that another friend required the money to complete the guarantee payment of a public tender. The scammer requested Gua's personal bank account details and then made a fake payment record, sending Gua a screenshot showing that the equivalent amount had been wired into his account. Without seeing if the transaction was complete, Gua made 2 payments from his company's bank account, totaling the requested amount. It was only after reaching out to his friend, whose identity had been stolen, that Gua realized his grave mistake. His friend had no knowledge of the transaction, and the victim contacted the police instantly. The authorities alerted a bank in another city, requesting them to halt the transfers. As a result, Gua successfully recovered 3.4 million yen of the defrauded amount, all thanks to his quick reaction. Number 3. A joint effort at deception. On November 30th, 2022, an incident at a Walmart in Grovetown, Georgia, led to a man and woman deceiving a cashier and running off with over $6,000 worth of products and gift cards. The Columbia County Sheriff's Office stated that the duo loaded up a Walmart cart with a number of expensive items. As they approached the cash register, they made multiple card transactions. The pair confused the cashier on purpose, requesting that the cash button on the register should be pressed to facilitate the use of their credit card. This tactic led to the merchandise being run up as if it were being paid for in cash, bypassing charges to their credit cards. Because of that, they left the store with $3,400 worth of merchandise and $3,000 in gift cards, all without actually paying for them. The Columbia County Sheriff's Office labeled this incident as a case of theft by deception. In an update posted on their Facebook page, the Columbia County Sheriff's Department announced that they have identified a suspect in connection with the crime. The male suspect was identified as 19-year-old Jalen Griggs from Flint, Michigan, but no information on the female suspect was found. No more information has been found regarding how the case against the individuals proceeded. Number 2. A failed attempt. In 2019, a thief on the run tried to conceal his identity with a pair of black-rimmed glasses, but failed miserably when local law enforcement saw through his weak disguise. 30-year-old David Springthorpe had several outstanding charges for shoplifting offenses and breaching a court order. His run from the law ended when police officers, in the middle of a chase, spotted him sporting brand new spectacles. The Safer Neighborhood Policing team in Derbyshire posted on Facebook about Springthorpe's capture, and they highlighted his recent change in appearance, noting that he had started to wear glasses. But they emphasized that the seemingly smart transformation was far from enough to outsmart the authorities. Commenters poked fun at Springthorpe's ill-fated attempt to evade detection, because the glasses did nothing to hide the suspect's distinctive features, and he also had prominent ears and a neck tattoo. Earlier in January, he had already faced legal consequences for theft of approximately $26 worth of steak from a co-op store. Springthorpe's misguided efforts to alter his appearance proved futile. He stood accused of stealing several perfume gift sets from a Boots store, and he was punished for his crimes with a 30-week jail sentence. Number 1. The Null misunderstanding. In 2019, a security researcher from California attempted to outsmart the California Department of Motor Vehicles by obtaining a vanity license plate that read Null. The man, who went by the name of Drugi, had a thought process behind this choice. Null represents the absence of a value in computer terminology, and he thought that he could evade tickets by making his plate invisible in the DMV system. At first, everything was going according to plan, as Drugi did not receive any tickets during the first year with his unique number plate. But his luck quickly ran out when he tried to renew his license plate tags online. He repeatedly saw an error message popping up stating invalid information. Drugi soon found himself slapped with a parking ticket, followed by a barrage of numerous other tickets that accumulated to a huge sum of more than $12,000. The strange aspect of this situation was that even though Drugi was not responsible for the offenses, all the tickets were issued in his name. As it turns out, a third-party processing company collaborates with the DMV. This company had set up its system in such a way that incomplete or non-existent license plates were recorded as null. So these entries became linked to Drugi, resulting in him being ticketed for a large number of number plates. That's when Drugi contacted the DMV, who in turn went up to the processing company to deal with the situation and have the tickets dismissed. But the processing company had not made the changes to their system, which is why Drugi continued to receive new tickets. The last time it was checked, the ticket amount had already gone past $6,000. Despite seeking help, Drugi has encountered little support from both the DMV and the Los Angeles Police Department. But Drugi believes he has done nothing wrong and is reluctant to comply with their suggestion. The fines were eventually scrapped by the police. Which one of these crimes did you find the smartest? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Bad Badger.